Welcome to another episode of Zero Ales and Hockey Tales with Wally. And today I am so excited to have on a 54 and soon to be 82-year-old from Timmins and Stratford, Ontario, Canada. They are both staples and legends of the Midwestern Ontario Junior B Loop. One is a two-time Sports Writer of the Year for the ONNA, which is the Ontario Newspaper Awards, folks. He is a wordsmith and had every single teenage hockey player in the Midwest hanging on to every one of his words in the KW record. The other is the backbone and pulse of the Elmira Sugar Kings, a six-time Cherry Cup champion and a four-time Sutherland Cup champion, and has helped countless kids make Elmira a second home and chase their dreams to the OHL or NCAA, and is Elmira royalty. Welcome to the shed, Bob Cummings and Jeff Hicks.
Thanks, Brett. What an intro. Oh my goodness.
What a collection of dandies in the shed today, too. Hicksy, I get into how we know each other, and I was trying to figure this out. I bet you I haven't seen you since 2002.
It's got to be that long. And even then, they wouldn't let me talk to you because you had a wrist injury, and that's all I was interested in.
Oh, yeah. When Dr. Kennel was freezing my wrist for the games.
Amazing. He did a great job because Van Naden sent me some of the old articles, which I'd forgotten about. And in the middle of one of the articles, it said how Walton came back and all of a sudden he was shooting like he normally does. And I figured, he must have just got the freezing from Doc Kennel. So
yeah, no, I think it was the first game of the finals. I literally didn't play until overtime, and I was like, I'm going to try and play anyways. And I couldn't shoot or pass or stick handle. And so then after that game, we had to figure out something.
Yeah.
And we did.
I spent so much time with Bob, it seems like for 5 years or so, every Sunday night. And then when the playoffs came around, I'd sort of sit beside him outside the coffee maker in the old Elmira Arena and just fired questions at him. And he'd talk the whole time and tell me exactly what was going on everywhere. It's so nice to see Bob and looking so well. And good times. But it seems like it's a lifetime ago.
Well, it really was. And that's funny because now I'm coaching kids and it brings back so many memories of my childhood that you forget about until you see other kids go through it, right? So Bobby, Clippy, haven't seen you since, I guess, the Sugar King golf tournament this year.
Golf tournament, right?
That's where I gave you my shirt. Yeah. Show the crowd your beautiful 2Ale shirts. Both of you have them. Look at this. Yeah. This is sexy shit, Clippy. I've never been turned on by Hicks either. Actually, that's Hicksy. That's part of how you came on was the guy that does my website, aleshockeytales.com, which is in the UK. It's a guy that's done all this for me, and I can't thank Sean Collins enough. But he says somebody's ordered a hoodie in your neck of the woods. And wow. I was like, oh, really? Who's that? And he said, Jeff Hicks. And I said, no shit. So thank you for the sport, Hicksy, and thanks for paying the shipping to get that over here. Because
it's great. Beautiful. Yeah, it is. It's comfy. I love it. Yep.
I have the same sweater, and I literally can wear it every day. It never smells bad. I don't have to wash it. It's my favorite hoodie I've ever worn.
Do you know what it is?
That with your dirty hockey equipment sitting around.
Yeah, I don't get into hockey equipment anymore, Clippy. That's over.
Well, you know what? It's a conversation starter too, because I was wearing this after pickup last night, and the guys at the table were asking, what the hell is that? And I said, it's a podcast I'm going to be on tomorrow. You got to give Wally a listen. So
that's
maybe
right.
You get some more listeners.
And thank you. And there's people wearing this shit all over the place. It's pretty wild. Clippy, I gave you a t-shirt then at that golf tournament, eh? So I gave out a few of them that day.
Probably did.
Yeah. It was great to see you again, buddy.
Oh, yes. You and I go back more than before hockey.
Well, I'm going to bring that up right now because getting into how we know each other. Clippy here was my grade 6 homeroom and communications teacher, right?
Back a day or two.
And did you know that your parent-teacher meeting with my mother was a story she told for at least a year or two? Because I still remember it because, man, you You put a pretty high bar on me. Wasn't too thrilled.
Uh,
You probably wouldn't remember what you said to my mother.
probably not.
No, probably not. You probably had a few of them. You said to her that the sky was the limit for me. Did you know? Did you say that to every mother?
No, because you recognize each kid a little different.
And I am a little different.
Yeah, you had skills and talents. I don't know at that time whether you were actually reaching for them.
I don't think I ever really reached for them until I got out to the shed.
That's right. And we got you the scholarship.
Yeah. Well, and you helped everybody get scholarships, and you were the one reaching out to schools right before the internet and before all that. You were getting names out there for the Elmira Sugar Kings, weren't you?
Yes, we go way back before the 90s.
Yeah, you've been there since the start, eh?
71.
71. That's
Wow.
put in a few years with the Kings, eh?
A day or two, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah, you are. So that gets into the inspiration to today's double header episodes is I'm raffling off Elmira Sugar King jersey on my website, aleshockeytales.com. And all the money raised will go to Friends of Hockey, ran by Kyle Rank, to support kids that doesn't matter how much money they got, they're going to get equipment and they can play hockey, right? Yeah. And good work, Kyle Rank. Way to get that going and keeping it going after your old man, Richard. What a beauty he was. And so I'm having on Sugar Kings today, and I'm going to bring awareness to this raffle because people aren't going to embarrass me, right? I'm going to go out to center ice with a check, and people are going to buy enough tickets that I'm not embarrassed by how much money's on that check, right?
That's right.
I think right now we've raised like $60. Yeah. So please buy tickets, folks, right? They're less than $2 a ticket. Buy like 20 tickets. Get off your ass, right?
Yeah.
Is this a Walton jersey? Whose name's on it?
There's no name on it. It's the Sugar King. It's a game approved one, but there's no name on the back yet. But you could get a Walton on the back if you want. After you win it. I'd pay for
How about I'm going to increase the value, have Van Nynatten on the back. It's about the lettering alone makes it twice as valuable.
It's a long last name. Yeah. What a legend he was in the league, eh, Hicksy?
He was a different type of guy. He was furious in that, Bob, right? He was just full of fury.
Yeah. We got him by accident. Not surely by accident. It was our luck.
Stratford cut him for Doug Groinestedge.
He was drafted by Kitchener Rangers, and he was cut. He went back home, Severinville, which is Stratford territory, and they didn't want him. So we took him.
Yeah, we sure did.
The rest is history.
It sure is.
And this is the old
too.
This is the Elmira Sugar King story, taking the discards of other teams and turning them into superstars.
Brandon Dietrich and Rob Collins, right?
Yeah, they're our coach right now.
And I hear the Sugar Kings are in first place.
We are 6 points up on Cambridge and Waterloo, and
running amok, eh?
3 games in hand.
So Rob Collins knows how to coach then, does he?
They played one of the best games they played all year last night.
You want us to talk about that then? Because my team played the best game of their season last night. My under 11 team is in the playoffs. Yeah. I'm the coach, and we went to, both teams were 5-1 after the round robin. Okay. We go to a 1-game playoff to see who finishes first or second. We're both going to move on, but whoever finishes second is going to have to play Shallow Lake, who has never lost a game this whole season. So basically it came down to last night, because I'll try and win against Shallow Lake in a tournament, a 1-gamer, but a series, she was going to be a tough hill to climb. So we went all in last night. I took a mini Stanley Cup. I pretended we were playing for a mini Stanley Cup. I gave the boys a speech I don't think they'll forget anytime soon. I went all in as a coach. And my team played their best game of the year. We went down 3 different times and we kept finding a way to come back. And then the second half of the game, we took over and we won. And the team we played was a great team. Aaron Eldersley, but we ended up winning it. And so now we finished first and we start a series against Walkerton. Can't wait. Start Saturday. And if we win that, we go to the All Ontario Finals.
Good for you.
Wow. Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah. So that's my first year of it. And gosh, I love it.
It's a different experience.
It is, man. It is exhilarating watching kids play when you really, really deep down care about what's going on.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, the only reason I've been around for 50 years.
It's because you get to know the kids, right?
Well, seeing them go
Shoot
to
for the stars.
Wherever they wanted to go.
Yep.
They reach that stat, that goal, that desire.
Yep.
We've had 190 kids play hockey at a higher level than junior B hockey.
190 out of Elmira.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Played either NCAA, CIS, Junior A.
And you're a big part of that, Clippy, because I remember back in our time, like the coaches from NCAA, like they had to literally come watch us. There was no video to just watch online, right? Like they had to physically come see us. And before the internet really took off, like you were sending them mail, right? And you're saying, come look at these guys.
Yep. So it was, and the only problem is I did too good a job with your team. over the 2 years.
Ran out of scholarships in the league, I guess.
We ended up, well, you had 7 or 8 went 1 year.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
Over 2 years, about 12. So with the result after you were finished in your group, we didn't make the playoffs for 1 year.
Yeah.
Because we had too many bodies gone.
Yeah. No, it's really fun when all your friends get to go reach for the stars too, right? Lochner, Niagara, Van Nuyen. So it was Niagara and St. Lawrence, right? You got Ranker, who will be on tonight.
Yep.
Friends of Hockey, folks, buy a ticket.
Yeah.
And then so Ranker, Hogg, the captain of the last year, right? My old line mate, which Hicksy, that's going to come up because Adam Kennel's coming on tonight. You wrote an article about our line, Adam Hogg, Adam Kennel, and myself, right? Do you remember that article?
That's right. I do. I'll tell you why. Interesting story. I was writing about how great a line it was and how it was just piling up the points. And I remember I inserted into the middle of this article this line that said, greatest junior B line ever, with a question mark. And I thought, all right, it might be.
You caused a buzz with that article.
What happened was one of our night editors thought the question mark didn't look right there, so we took it out. It was Bill Cooper. Thanks, Bill. Anyway, once it appeared, it's like, wow, there's no way out of this. Because it just sounds like I'm talking my way out of it. So I just kind of owned it and said, yeah. So if they're not, then tell me who is. Of course, I'm the Stratford guys and trot out Ed Olchek, and the Waterloo guys had trot out the McCutcheon line from the 80s. And it was actually turned out to be a pretty good thing. It was caused a lot of debate in different times.
But different eras of junior B too, right? And
different eras, different ice. Not everybody played on a 79 by 181 sheet. Played pinball hockey, and which actually I think made you be a better skater because there were so many stops and starts, whereas you couldn't go for big long loops like you could in Waterloo. But yeah, it was. It did create a buzz. Yes, I heard.
Well, it's came up a few times in the shed. I guess it was a few people have brought it up and shown it. Like Adam Kennel still has it. He sends the photo of it. He has it hung up in his basement. So it's a powerful thing you were doing in that KW record because people have that article like posted in their houses.
Well, I appreciate that. As I think back over the last 20 years, 25 years ago, when I sort of started covering the Kings, I was in radio and I was doing a morning show in radio with another guy named Jeff. And we were the Jeff and Jeff morning show, and the joke was I was and Jeff. And I did play-by-play for the Winterhawks, but and I would sort of do the junior B thing on the side, and I really cut my teeth on the Sugar Kings and their title runs, 96, 97, and beyond that. But what strikes me about looking back at some of the articles I've looked at is I stunk. I was a lousy writer.
What?
And it took me 4 or 5 years And I was starting to get it when I got to Wally's team. And then a little after that, I started to get a feel and get my own voice and start to have fun with things.
Well, you were playing with words. I remember there were times, I remember an article when we won it, the Sutherland Cup, I think, right, in Thorold, and it was Fearman scored off the draw. And like, remember that? The title of the article was like,
Snap.
Was like quick off the draw, this and that. I don't know. But anyways, I remember
that's right. Fisher was the garbage man because he got
the garbage man and the quick draw or something you called it.
Right. Yeah. But what's amazing that night was Thorold rested their top guys. They wanted you guys, which was a fatal mistake.
In the hockey world, I think that the hockey gods take care of things like that. If you rest in the round robin, if you rest your best players to face us, hockey gods don't like that shit.
Yeah. They were signing autographs in the first intermission. It was ridiculous.
Like they thought they had won the Southern Cup because they were going to play us.
And it happened later. Was it when we won it in 14? We were playing Niagara Falls in a round robin, and they wanted to meet us instead of somebody else. So they didn't dress up their players. So we ended up playing Niagara Falls in the Southern Cup that year and beat them in 5. Jeff Hathaway was coaching.
I think there's the right way to play hockey, and I think there's not the right way. And like for our little round robin with the kids there, the coach and I are having our little chat before the game at one point in the round robin, and it was going to come down to last game. And we were discussing like, well, if we're down by 1 and it goes goals for and against, are we pulling the goalie? Are we trying to tie it up? And I said to him, I'm like, I'm not teaching the kids it's okay to lose by 1. If we're down by 1, we are pulling the goalie and we are trying to tie the game up. I'm not playing that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels great when a team rests like their top players, Nathan Horton and them, and then you stick it to them.
That's right. And we did too. We did in the Sutherland Cup. 5 games. They only won 1.
Yeah.
And they were hot shots.
And I guess we'll bring them up. I've done it before, but I would say the straw that stirred the drink, the guy that just competes harder than anybody else was Baird Eggets.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Thanks.
And he was not a big, heavy set speedster.
And he had one leg skinnier than the other because he used to have a club foot.
That was a birth thing.
And it was like my boys last night, and not to bring them up again, but they wanted it more than the other team, you know? And it comes down to who wants it more. And when I showed them the trophy, I'm like, we're going to be brothers for life. You only get so many times in your life to win a championship. I'm like, this is for the division. This is a championship. And I put a trophy in front of them. I said, when we get back in the locker room after beating this team, we're all going to sign this trophy and we're going to keep it forever.
That's right.
And it used to be a popcorn maker.
Not always the best team on paper wins a championship.
No, it usually doesn't.
Yeah, you got to want it.
The team that usually finishes first in a regular season a lot of times doesn't win the championship, right?
We never have.
No.
When we ended up in first.
We were third place? We already had a coach fired that year.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I'm good friends. I'm friends with Dave Matthews, and we talk, but we've never talked about that. But I remember at the time I did a story about the change when things were going back on track, and I didn't talk to Dave, and I really should have. But the whole situation was crazy. It was a high school guidance counselor is just going to step in. And they're going to win. That's ridiculous.
The high school guidance counselor that was a figure skating coach.
Yes, right.
He's coming to the shed tonight, folks. Doubleheader.
Okay.
Wow. Disco Dave officer. He's coming.
He's quite
so much positivity, and he had a way of taking hard losses and explaining it to you guys. What did he call it? Mechanical persistence or something like this.
He was just
of knowing where you are in the journey, right? Yeah. I mean, I love the line from Easter where he said in a previous podcast, which is a great podcast, where he said other coaches would get angry when things didn't go well, and Dave would get nicer. It was just crazy. It was exactly the opposite of what he had under Kilray, and probably Brogan, right?
Take the good side of what happened.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? Because I played for a lot of coaches. There's only so many I want to bring to the shed. Dave Officer is one of them. He's one of the nicest people around. I don't know what you call it, nurtured and supported all of us young donkeys into becoming better young men, right?
Yeah. He knew how to handle kids.
Right.
Psychology.
Well, he even handled Van Nuyen that, right? Like that's a mental pretzel to try and.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you remember there was a game where he knocked after he got scored on and a school was there to watch him. This was at the playoffs. He pushed the net off and over and then left the ice, right?
Yep.
So
Beautiful.
That's enough.
Wouldn't you sign that guy right away? Or wouldn't you recruit that guy right away? I'd want that guy.
Well, he's a
In a
competitor, right? And some
Yeah.
of the goalies I talked to, some of the players, it's the people that want it the most. Van Nuyen wanted it the most, and we won.
He wanted to prove Stratford was messed up.
And they
Rangers
did.
messed up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So
he did.
came here with a goal.
Yeah.
I remember in maybe one of the playoff runs, I wrote something where he was stinking, which he was. And Jeff Seddon came up to me the next day and said, "Oh, I just want to thank you for that little crack about Van Nuyen." And he said, Nats came up to me the other day and said, "I'm going to show that little cocksucker." And sure enough, I think he got a shutout the next game or something like that.
Yeah.
He was outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
They made the comment about him in Stratford. And we were going into Stratford the next Friday. And he said, "They're not going to get a goal."
Yeah.
And we went in there and I think we shut them out right in Stratford.
Oh yeah, some of his games in the William Allman
Oh.
Arena, he would stand on his head, and you could just see it that he was like, and you could feel like, and for us that were his brothers now, we were so proud of him
Oh,
because
yeah.
he was one of ours now, and we are like, yeah, let's stick it to him.
Mhm.
He had a goal and
Okay.
ulterior motive.
Clippy, we are not following my notes at all. We're just chatting.
What else is new, eh?
Yeah. What I wanted to bring up though is how we know each other is you're going out for lunch again. You keep going out for lunch with my old next door neighbor from my Elmira
I
house.
did.
Yeah.
Him and I taught together at Park Manor.
Mr. Reed, Dave Reed. He was my next door neighbor when we had the house in Elmira and we sold that to move here to Kincardine. But my next door neighbor was also my former teacher. And you would always bike by and we'd stop and chat in the front yard for like an hour, right?
That's right.
Man, Elmira's a change in town though, isn't it?
It is. It's not the little town anymore. If you come back into it, the subdivisions are growing like crazy.
Not much yards on them either, is there?
No, and it's not cheap to buy a house.
No.
You'd be lucky if you get anything under 900.
Is that right?
On 900,000.
So when I moved in beside Mr. Reed, I almost threw up because I had bought it for like 225 or something. And when I'm talking to Mr. Reed, he's like, "Oh yeah, I got the cottage up in the Muskokas and this and that." And
Right.
we get chatting and he's lived there since they built it in the 70s.
Yep.
And he says, "Well, I paid 38,000 for this."
Well,
And he was still there.
yeah, I'm still in the house. I bought the first house we bought. I only paid 17,000 for it. Now we're talking about, it's been I probably maybe put 150 into it with changes and additions, but I could, they're telling me I could sell it between $800,000 and $850,000 now.
She's a crazy world out there.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, no, Elmira's changed. But I come home, man. I used to be able to drive around and you wave to everybody, you said hi to everybody. And that's what it's still like in Kincardine. And that's why I love living here so much, is because you drive around, you don't even know the person. You kind of wave to each other, right?
I noticed the same thing. And I taught for 35 years in the town.
Yeah.
I go to a grocery store and I don't know half the damn people.
That's
I don't
changed. That
recognize
if you don't know them, then it's really changed.
Well, it has. The subdivisions are going leaps and bounds.
Well, that also part of my notes was getting into how we know each other, though. It is, I find talking in my shed is a lot of hockey players follow the guys' careers that they really looked up to. Say
Yeah.
it's Andrew Hotham following his brother, Scott, or whoever else, right? If you live in Toronto, you see the Maple Leafs and you're shooting for the NHL.
Yep.
If you're Joey Martin and you're from Thorold, you're watching the Thorold Blackhawks and you're shooting to be a Thorold Blackhawk. When you're from Elmira, you're shooting to be an Elmira Sugar King. And then my favorite players were Brandon Dietrich and Rob Collins.
Yeah.
And I wore number 23 and number 10 because of them my whole career. And like even my email has still got a 10 in it for Brandon Dietrich, right? And but then they go to Germany. Brandon Dietrich is the one that gets me to Germany to be his line mate. And it's like I saw them go to Germany and then I wanted to go there. And it's just interesting how the people you looked up to, the people you saw, how what they accomplish is kind of what you strive for, right?
That's probably my biggest feeling of success with the hockey club, seeing them reach the goals. Right now we have 5 in Europe playing hockey, making a living. Last one is a Kincardine boy,
Ethan Skinner.
Skinner.
Former Shed guy.
That's right.
He's also in my pickleball league in the neighborhood here.
Yeah, he's in Belgium now. He's got 44 points in 22 games.
Running amok, they call that.
That's right.
Hopefully he's working on his pickleball game because I still kick the shit out of him at that.
But there's tons of them over there, and they're all over the place.
Oh, I know.
And
they're living, right? They're getting to do fun stuff and seeing the world.
Well, yeah.
Like Clippy, can you imagine? It can sprechen ein bisschen Deutsch. And it's just for hockey.
How about that, eh?
Would you ever guess that in grade 6 communications, I'd be talking German?
Well, I remember.
Well, I guess because of the Mennonites around, we probably should have known a little bit.
You remember Larry Harris with us.
Oh, I had him on too. He's been in the shed. I dropped him off a t-shirt at the golf outing too.
He has a cottage up in Chesley.
Yeah, that's right.
I went to how much we follow these, you guys. I went and saw you play in Western Michigan.
Yeah, you did.
Dietrich down in St. Lawrence, the others in RIT. I was all over.
You brought the whole Sugar King team to watch me play.
Yeah.
We played Cornell. I went top cheese.
Yeah. I even stopped in to see Agates play in Cincinnati.
Right. Yeah,
Coming
he was a
home from
legend
Florida
there.
one time.
I wonder if they retired his jersey in Cincinnati. I don't think they did, but they should.
Yeah, I don't think they've retired anything other than the one.
No, I'm talking about Cincinnati should.
Oh, yes. Well, he was there for quite a while.
Oh, he was the mayor of that. Yeah.
I know. He's not there anymore now.
No, I know.
You know what's so weird, Wally, is that to me, you guys are all in my head. You guys are all still 18, to see you guys have kids of your own. I live in Hespeler, and we have a tennis club, small little tennis club here, and we run a kids program for tennis. And one day, Brandon Dietrich shows up, and I look and I go,
great smile on that guy. Confirmed Shed guy too, but he wants to wait till after March break. You know, he's got some nerves.
Am I losing my mind? How am I? Is this really him? And it was. He was signing his daughter up for lessons at the Hespeler Tennis Club. He told me how he played tennis in Waterloo growing up all the time at the Waterloo clubs. It's just it's amazing to think that you guys have families of your own and have grown up. The Elmira Arena isn't there. In my head, it's still there.
I know, me too. And then you go to that new one, it just doesn't feel the same. And I love the old arena. Like, so one thing I think really helped me succeed, you talked about how small the Elmira Arena was playing in that Midwest Junior B League. It was a lot like playing in the UK League. There were Olympic-sized rinks in Kitchener, Waterloo. There were tiny barns in Stratford and Elmira. There was all the different sizes, and you had to learn how to adapt, how to play in each size of rink. And it was the same in the UK. We had a little tiny BBT rink, which was like the Elmira Arena, and I loved it. But then you'd go to Nottingham and Sheffield, and it'd be exhausting. You'd have to skate so far. If somebody on my team dumped it in, I'd be like, screw this, I'm changing. That's too far. Yeah, but no, the different sized arenas is a different game, and I think that league really helped me that way.
Yeah, the best games I've ever seen were at Elmira Arena in any level of hockey for pure entertainment. And you can shoot from anywhere, and you're 2 seconds away from bringing it back the other way. And it was so much fun. One of the funnest times I had was before I started full time at the paper. I was still doing the radio show, and I would do play-by-play. Bob probably remembers when I did play-by-play of one Elmira Cambridge series. But Sunday nights, I would come in, cover the game, but I was also part of the pickup group that played right after the Sugar Kings.
Oh, you don't think we knew that?
Oh.
Us players were like, Hicksy's on the ice. Hicksy's on the ice. He can play. Look at him. Look at him. He can play. Because every guy wanted an article about themselves. It was like, it was making it, man. When you wrote an article about me drinking coffee in between periods, the stick boy would go up and get me a coffee, and you wrote an article about that. Hot and bothered.
Wow. I don't even remember that. I don't remember anything. The stories go in and out of your head a lot of the time.
Well, you're just writing another article, right? And it means more to us, a 17-year-old kid that's in his hometown, running amok. And then the newspaper guy sees that and is nice enough to write a full article about me drinking coffee in the KW Record. And I was like,
yeah,
that's cool shit.
Town. Yep.
Yeah, small town. That always struck me about Elmira when I came to it, just how welcoming everybody was, how, Bob or Larry Farr or Henry Benjamins or Jeff said, and they couldn't wait to tell you what was going on with the team. Everything. You didn't even have to ask. Other teams would be like, they wouldn't tell you stuff. But with the Sugar Kings, even when they used Heckendorn as an ineligible player, Jeff Seddon came up to me and told me before I knew anything about it. It just struck me as a really nice class of people.
I find it's really interesting based on going through minor hockey now, right? It's the similar type thing is there's small town feels and then there's city feels. And it's like Kitchener Dutchman was a city feel. That team had some good players, but were they a family? Did they really love each other? I don't even think they really knew each other. They just showed up to play hockey.
Yeah. And they didn't get involved in the community like you guys did.
No, it's like we would really have at it at the Maple Syrup Festival, right?
Yeah. And did you go to the schools to read to the kids?
Yeah, we did that too. We did anything. Yeah. So, and you know what we got paid for the Elmira Sugar Kings? Because I'm curious what they make now. I got $20 every 2 weeks.
Wow.
So Clippy, how are they still getting $20 every 2 weeks?
I would imagine they've got a little bit more than that, but probably not a whole lot.
Well, it was a pretty big deal there my last year because I was taking a couple part-time classes at Conestoga College. They bumped her up to $40 every 2 weeks.
Wow.
That was to pay for gas.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things, as you say, a small town, and the other teams in our league probably don't do it. You guys have some meal after the game.
Well, I find this one of the most interesting stories that I've never really brought this up, but so I've always had a bit of a weight issue as a hockey player, Clippy. I don't know if you realize that. I was always, had a bit of a muffin top, and I think it stems from Elmira Sugar King days because I won player of the game a lot that last year. Every single time you guys gave me an extra value meal at McDonald's.
Oh,
wow.
They starve the game.
I think the game's changed a bit now. I think the top players in junior don't get McDonald's meals anymore.
Yeah. But didn't you guys have to come up to and go someplace and eat a meal as a team after the game together?
Well, going up to the blue line room, right?
That's right. And you got the Booster Club ladies fed you.
Right. And that's all just volunteers helping the community, right?
Oh. And I don't know of another team in the league that's got it.
And I know. And no, it was a first class organization and it's the volunteers. But Clippy, realistically, it's you.
Well, there's a lot of us around.
But you're right. There's more than just you. But I'm telling you, I brought Kyle Rank into the shed and we're shooting the shit. And he's like, Clippy doesn't get enough credit for what he did for all of us.
Yeah, my credit is seeing what happened to them.
Well, you know what? One of my favorite things of being a Sugar King was, and what I thought was one of the most important things we did was at the start of the season, we went on a team trip, which brought the team together and we became family. We got completely crushed all together as a
Yeah.
family. No distractions, no high school girlfriends, no college girlfriends. It was just us on the road. But it wasn't just the team. It was you. It was the coaching staff. It was everybody was there together. And we would get to a hotel, fill the bathtub with beers and ice, right? And we would, it might happen, but that was when we became a family. And that's how you end up winning at the end of the season, I think.
You become a group.
And family.
We haven't been able to do that the last few years because of the pandemic.
Well, there's your normal weekends all through a hockey season, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
The shit you remember was going to St. Lawrence, see Brandon Dietrich, skate around. God, it was gorgeous, right? And then we went to Ferris State and watched Rob Collins and Chris Kunitz play together. And I was like, this is just the best thing, because I got to watch him as a super fan, both of them. And then you guys actually took me to watch what happens next. And I'm like, holy shit, I got to do that.
Yeah, that's right. It gives you that extra goal.
You get to see where you can go, right?
God, I want to be part of that.
And I did want to be part of it, and I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, those trips, oh man. Ferris State was wild. You get Van Nyen, Chester, and the boys all in Ferris State.
Cornell was wild in the stands.
Cornell?
Cornell, they got bonkers in the crowd, the fans.
I've played in Cornell. It was a nuts arena, but
it's full arena and everybody's a nuthead.
Yeah. Well, college arenas are like, Elmira Sugar King games were incredible, especially like when I was a fan watching, and we had broke a few fire codes with how many people were in the building, but like you get to the college games with the bands and like the students may or may not have been drinking when they get there, and it can be a rowdy atmosphere.
Oh yes.
Shout out to the Western Michigan Broncos, 7th in the nation right now, and we're going into playoffs. And a guy that came to the Shed, first team, all NCHC or whatever the league's called now. And he's up for the Hobie Baker, Ethan Frank.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's not a Sugar King, but I support him still. Okay, moving on though. What else do we got here? I don't even know, where were we? Jeff Hicks. Here we go.
Yeah.
You're an outdoor rink enthusiast like I have been.
Well, I got 3 boys, and 2 of them still play hockey, 17, 14. One's a goalie, so he's got to work on his game. And during the pandemic, his goalie coach actually comes over and gives him, an hour's worth of training on the backyard rink. We expanded it this year. We've had it 5 or 6 years, and we took the excavator to the backyard and leveled that sucker out. So we made it. It's about 30 by 30 or so.
So you actually did that, because my issue was I did one last year and it just wasn't big enough due to the slope. So it's either getting like an excavator and like flatten out the yard, or just not doing it.
Flatten out the yard. It was the best money I ever spent. It's awesome. You'll love it.
Yeah, but around
so
here, like you can find stuff, right? Like you can find rinks here, and that's what I've been doing. I find them. They're in farmers' fields. They're on the lake sometimes. They're rivers.
Nice.
That's kind of my hobby. I find rinks for the kids because I didn't make one. I felt guilty this year.
It becomes an obsession. You become totally obsessed with the quality of the ice, the tiki lights, everything. The dog eating the pucks,
Well, and I actually really enjoyed it. It was quite therapeutic going out and working on the rink last winter, but now I have the Shed, so that's more therapeutic than making a rink.
Get out of the house.
Yeah, you got to do stuff, right, Clippy?
Yeah.
What are you doing for fun these days other than the Sugar Kings?
Not much you can do.
No.
Go for coffee breaks. That's about it. Go out with Mr. Reed quite often for coffee. We're out.
How's he doing?
Good. He's had a few things that he's had to deal with health-wise.
Yeah.
We're going up to his cottage in 2 weeks for the weekend.
And
nice.
You and your wife are Clippy.
Yes.
How long have you guys been married now?
59 years this year.
Haven't had a love story.
Great.
Haven't had a love story in the Shed in a while, Clippy. How'd you 2 crazy kids meet 59 years ago?
Well, her girlfriend set us up.
Is that right?
Yeah, I knew her from school.
Yeah.
So she asked me to come to the restaurant downtown Stratford for fish fries or something. So I went. And that's how we met.
And you've been married for 59 years, eh?
Yeah, that's it.
Wow,
Well
that's
done,
great.
sir. Well done.
Yeah, there's not the grass isn't greener elsewhere.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So I guess growing up in Stratford, eh? Our
Yeah.
biggest rivals, you grew up there, eh? That's wild to hear.
I
And
played-
you're the king of kings.
I played for Stratford.
Shut your filthy mouth.
I know. That was back in 58, 59.
You played junior B?
Junior C, it was that time.
Is that right? I was wondering if
Wow.
how much hockey you
Junior
played.
C. That was back. We came into Elmira and played a few times against the Dukes and stuff. And Larry Banks and that group.
Really?
My coach in Stratford was Craig Hartsburg,
Wow.
or his dad, Bill Hartsburg.
I was gonna say Craig Hartsburg ain't old enough.
Oh, his dad. He was only a little kid running around. He wasn't even old enough to play for us at that time. So
Huh.
You know what's funny is when I was in Cambridge and did the radio for the Winterhawks, they had Chris Hartsburg, who's Craig's
Yes.
son.
that's the son.
So, wow.
Oh,
Then he
it's
coached here,
it's a small world when you start
Yep.
talking around.
Oh, yes.
And you know, it's weird because hockey people seem to breed hockey people.
Yeah, well, you get together and get involved with the team as you did. You made friendships that'll last a lifetime,
Oh man.
you know, and
It's-
it'll go
it-
on.
When it's yeah, no, and I think where you grow up and how it all goes for you makes you who you are. And my junior time, winning those championships, being a family with the guys, like basically doing everything in the world together. We would eat pucks for each other. We were a championship team in every facet of the word, both years, even the year we lost in game 7.
Yeah.
But then those friendships go on forever. But then I guess Western Michigan, it wasn't quite the same, right? We weren't good enough, but the rest of like we were a family off the ice, and everywhere I went after that, that's what I tried to do. I tried it to make it like it was with the Elmira Sugar Kings.
Yeah. Well, it's been this way in town here. It's a small town. And
It was.
you come from all over the place, but that's your life here.
Yep.
Even no matter where you came from, you became a family.
Right. And you've helped a lot of kids settle in Elmira, right? Like like Ethan Skinner coming from Kincardine, or the kids that come from wherever to come to Elmira, right? They got to get settled in high school, billets, right?
I did the registration at high school with them. We met there every year, got them registered, got their programs, all that crap. Before
What are the Sugar Kings paying you? $40 every 2 weeks?
probably cost me that much. I probably cost me money to be part of the team, not
I know you've never asked for a thing, but gosh darn it, you deserve it.
it's fun. Like I made friendships with a lot of kids. I email constantly with players from way back.
Well, I know.
Like Larry Harris, I taught in grade 6, same as you.
Really?
1967. Wow. And I visit him in the cottage every summer.
No, I know. And that's what hockey brings you, right? It brings you lifelong friends for the rest of your life, right?
I even went to Switzerland to stay with him 2 weeks.
With what? Larry Harris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was coaching there.
Yeah, no, he's been he did a heck of a job coaching there. He's done now, right?
Yeah, he's in Utah. He does
he's doing the website thing with the drills
program, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Jeff Hicks.
Yes.
Growing up in Timmins, Ontario. And how'd you get into hockey?
Actually, I was in Timmins till I was like 4, but my dad played junior B. Everyone came south, right? My dad played junior B in Kitchener and broke his wrist, and he eventually moved down here, moved to Kitchener. But my family has ties to Frank Mahovlich. my uncle's great friend with him. My Aunt Becky used to stone him on the outdoor rink in Schumacher. It was just a real hockey community. My dad was the manager of the Schumacher Bears when they won the juvenile provincials in like 1970. I got to let the jacket that Dad gave me upstairs. So hockey was a big part of our family. In Kitchener, my younger brother Jamie, he had the skill and the talent, and he also got all the height in the family. He's about 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" if you look at his hockey card.
Oh, yeah. I tried to get away with 5'10". They said 5'9" was pushing it because I'm not even 5'8".
But when I was coming through, I was okay, but nobody was looking for a 5'3" winger. So,
I saw you buzz around in that game after our games, though. You were buzzing around. You could make plays, Hicksy. Don't worry about it. You're a talented little 5'3" guy, though. Games change, though. Maybe you'd have a chance nowadays, eh?
Maybe it's totally different. Totally
it is.
Different.
They don't even hit each other anymore.
Nope. Skinner's only 5'8".
Yeah, I know.
He's just a small guy. And we've got a couple of them this year playing for us. The Uric boy. He's listed as 5'10", but maybe with the skates on. But he's a 20-some-odd goal scorer now.
Well.
So,
well, what was the line they used to have that if you were big, if you were small, you had to prove you could play. And if you were big, you had to prove you couldn't play.
That's basically what it was.
Yeah.
But then they'd also like to take on the projects. If they were big enough and clumsy enough, they're like, I think we could turn him into an athlete.
Yeah. I always liked, as a writer, though, goalies were always money. It didn't matter what level. Goalies, they wore their hearts on their mask. They would paint it up and they were just always interesting people, whether it's Van Eynatten or Tim Knudsen or Van Huellingen or Tim Bender or Scott Dickey or
Holy
any
moly,
of
you
the
got
guys.
A good memory.
Well,
how about
guys.
Dallas Cressman?
Dallas Cressman. It was over. It was 5-1. Whitey Stapleton sat beside me, and he was thinking about where to hide the 72 hockey puck next. And then he disappeared, and it became 5-2, 5-3, 5-4. And I think it was 6-5, 7-5 final. It was over. That's the start of the Sugar King dynasty began that night in Strathroy when it was done. It was finished.
Well, and that one after the first period.
So you guys are talking about this game. I was just in grade 6 communications with Clippy, right? So I never got to go to Strathroy and see that game. I did go on a fan bus to a couple of the games, but I missed that game, and you just hear about it at school the next day. And I tell you, Elmira was a buzz.
Yeah.
That when I'm in grade 6 and you got Rob Collins, Brandon Dietrich, Derek Hahn, like, man, Dallas Cressman and net, like, it was as exciting as hockey got.
Well,
you want to talk?
Cressman was on a run that year, but then he ran into trouble in that game. So the coaches, Jeff Snyder was a coach, wasn't he?
Yep.
He pulled them out after the first period and put Bob Van Huellingen in, who was the other goaltender. Well, during the season, those two guys split games. They pretty much played.
But then playoffs, it was all Cressman.
Well, he went to that game, and then he got into a little issue. 5 goals, 1 period.
Yeah, so that's enough.
No. Well, Jeff decided maybe we better change goaltender, just to tell them that we're upset with what the hell you're doing out there.
It's not the goalie's fault normally. That's the player's fault.
What I mean.
Yeah.
Let's give a message to the players that, hey, you're screwed up. You left him out to hang. And as Hicksy said, we back and won the game 7-5 and got into the Southern Cup.
Wow. There was another time it was over too, and it was before that. It was against Kitchener, and it was game 7, and Kitchener was up by 1 with a minute left.
In Elmira.
And all they had to do was clear it out.
Yep.
I can't remember if it hit a stanchion or Hahn knocked it down or what, but it hit a wall of something, an invisible wall at the blue line, and wouldn't go out.
Well, they had the extensions on the glass, right? Where you rim it around, you hit the thing, and it pops right out in the slot, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And as I can never look at that without thinking, Boy, I should have really written it up different. I was very straight and very boring. And the fun you could have covering that team now, or I would have, would be incredible. But it was a stunning moment because that Kitchener team, I think, would have won the Sutherland Cup if they got through that series.
That had Jonathan Chichu on.
Chichu, Shaw Malpe,
They
they had a lot of guys.
Wow, that was one of the games as a child I remember because it went to overtime. Is that not when Derek Hahn scores the OT winner?
Yeah.
That's when it was as full as an arena can get. You literally could not fit another person in.
Oh.
There were people like, where the old offices were, right? Where the brass would be, where the coffee maker was. Hicksy and Clippy are up there, the brass. There were people on top of there. They were actually in the rafters.
Yep. No.
And they'd have Oscar Black would be up there holding court.
Yeah.
Right.
And they've had that old rink, we had the big beams that went out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I can remember games, people up those rafters.
Yeah.
If they'd have fallen off, they'd have landed on the ice. That's how far up they were.
And it was crazy. It really was. And I was standing, like, we would get there as early as we had to. And there was the hockey guys my age and our friends, our group, we would stand along the glass at that one end. And you could see the guys in the rafters. You're right at the glass. You're watching every second. Like, I knew every guy, how they taped their stick. Like, I would go to practice and try and skate like Brand Dietrich or Rob Collins, and watching Derek Hahn score that goal, that shit stays with you. But you also saw what it took to win, right? Yeah. It took the passion. It took a whole community. It took the arena being full. Elmira doesn't win that game if that arena is not like that night.
No. We've had some interesting stories. You could go on for hours with this hockey club.
And we're going to.
Even the next year with Dietrich and Collins, we're in the Sutherland Cup again. We didn't win it because we lost to Niagara Falls, I think, in the 7th game.
I hate that shit. Yeah.
We were playing the Cherry Cup again in Stratford, starting the series because they were at first place. We went in there and they beat us 11-1 in the first game
of the series. 11-1.
First game. We got out of the bus and it's pretty quiet on the bus. Jeff Snyder come on the bus. He said, "Can I have your attention?" He said, "What's the series stand at?" Nobody said a word, couldn't figure out. "What's the series stand at?" Finally, somebody picked up
1-0.
1-0. Okay, that's all. Let's go home and have a good night's sleep. And we won the series in 6.
Mm-hmm.
There's times to, as a coach, that you got to settle the ship down. Then there's times you got to push it. There's a lot of different things. And like, I love this coaching thing, this under 11 thing last night. I was so in. And I think as a coach, when you have the passion, when you have the drive, when you want it as badly as anybody else, it rubs off on your team.
Well, I know that then that you go back to the one we came back and won in Strathroy. Jeff Snyder and I were walking down to the dressing room, and all of a sudden he stopped me. Grundy is in the dressing room, the captain, and just chewing the ass off them. He was going right after them.
You're right.
Jeff said,
"I don't need to
don't have to go in the room. I don't have to say a word.
Grundy's got it. Yeah.
Don't have to say a word. Back out in the ice."
Yeah. Right. And that's what you want. You want them to want it themselves, right? There's all the different teams that you're on as many as I've been. There's the ones where the leadership group has got you and you don't have to do much coaching. Nope. And then there's other teams where you got to do a lot of coaching because you don't have that group that's going to keep it together, right?
Yeah. Makes a difference.
Jeez.
I got a question for you, Brent.
Oh, boy.
A big question. I've been waiting 22 years to ask this question. It was against Thorold in the finals, pregame warm-up. I'm talking to Graham next to the coffee maker. Someone shoots a puck off Van Eynatten stick, and the puck goes and shatters the glass. And all this glass comes on my computer and it rains on the people down below. I want to know who shot that puck.
No idea. Don't even know that happened.
Probably
No.
don't watch too much of the warm-ups.
So I would have been playing in that game. I have no clue.
Oh man, the question
No.
goes unanswered. Yeah.
Glass breaks all the time. That
I
just
know.
happens, you know?
Who on that team would have that kind of a shot?
Well, sometimes it just hits the glass funny because I've broken
it does.
glass with my shot, and the times it did break, it wasn't like a full clapper. It was like the puck kind of just was on end.
Right angle.
Yeah, just hits it right and goes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
Okay, let's see what else I got on the notes here, eh? Don't forget to buy your tickets, aleshockeytales.com, Friends of Hockey, and Clippy. I'm doing more than that, by the way. So there's a kid in the UK, Maxon Maloney. Okay. He's battling cancer. He's got a 6-month battle on his hands. Like, it's a full go. And we're trying to keep his spirits up. We're trying to keep him fighting for the next 6 months. So we're raffling off this jersey I'm wearing right now on my website, aleshockeytales.com. And all the money raised is going to him decorating his room and everything when he gets out of the hospital. And he's got some plans what he wants to do with his room. So we're going to try and raise some money so he has a light at the end of the tunnel, because he just went into round 2 of chemo now. So buy your tickets, folks. aleshockeytales.com. You know, bet you can spare the $5, you know.
Shouldn't be able to.
$5 is nothing nowadays, right, Clippy? You bought your house for 17 grand.
If the gas price keeps going the way it is, it'll cost you to get that for a gallon.
Holy moly. Yeah, I tell you, minor hockey's getting more expensive when you got to drive places.
I know.
Crazy times. Yeah. Okay, Clippy. Who of Sugar Kings really stick out to you?
Oh, gosh.
Just give me like a couple. You don't have to get all, you know. I know there's too many to list.
I know. There's so many that have impressed you over time.
Well, it's like you go to the golf tournament, right? And like I hadn't been to a lot of them because they're on Mondays, right? But you get to one finally, and all the people you see, and it's like, I don't know, a lot of emotions when you haven't seen people in
I
decades.
can go back to, you get in the 70s, guys like Terry Holscher.
That's the guy I broke his record, right?
Yes, and then you came along, and I liked Adam Hogg. I always thought that Derek Hahn was probably one of the most complete players.
You're talking about Derek Hahn from Texas?
Yeah.
He came to the shed, and now he talks like he's from Texas. His name's Derek Hahn from Elmira.
He seemed to have the offense and the defense.
And he made it look simple, right? He didn't make anything look too complicated. Everything was calm and under control. Yeah. And he's one of those guys that isn't as flashy, right? And he's not, but he's doing everything you need him to do.
Oh, yeah. Ranker did his thing. Mm-hmm. Andrew Smith.
Who's
linesman in the NHL now. He was a 44 goal scorer. So, I mean, each time you go through a different group of 5-6 years, somebody really sticks out.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just his
hockey players
stats he put on.
Yeah.
Just the type of person he is and everything else.
Well, I think people play like their personalities, right? Ranker's he's a impressive person. The whole family is. Look at what Garrett's doing, right? Look, and then it comes from Richard, right? That guy was he was Elmira royalty. Their old man knew every single person in town. He said hi to every single person. Yep. Everybody knew him. He was in a good mood every day. I wish I could have him in my shed. That guy was a great person.
Yeah. And we go through that, and we got a few of them on the team now, They're great kids. A couple of them that.
So where are the guys on the team from now? Because they're not like when we won it. What I'm very proud of was it was the guys I grew up with. It was my buddies, most of them.
Yeah.
Right? You get Van Nyenat and you get the guys you needed, but the core were from Elmira. So where are the guys from now?
There's a lot from Elmira.
Really?
Really. We have, most of them are from Elmira.
The area though, right?
Yeah. Waterloo County.
Right.
There's 5 or 6 live right in town.
Hmm.
Everly is in town. The O'Donnells are in town. A couple of them live out in St. Clements.
Is that right? I
Over
thought you guys
Fergus-
had expanded more. I didn't think there was as many
Ferguson
locals.
Lore type thing. You know, there's Reinhardt Bore from.
Well, you know what I'm excited about is going out to center ice with a check for more than $60 for Friends of Hockey. And I haven't really been to a game very often in 20 years. And it'll be really fun to go out to center ice with Kyle Rank, my old buddy, and give him a check to Friends of Hockey to help kids play hockey from drinking beers in my shed, right?
Yeah, well, what the heck, you know? Yeah, it'll be good to see you then. You have no date for that, or?
It depends how much money we raise. I might be too embarrassed to go. Buy your tickets, aleshockeytales.com.
Well, I'm at every game, so you know where I am.
And you're videoing the games now, right?
I am. I'm up on this, right up behind the bench, up at the top. The video for the internet.
So I think that's fantastic that you're doing that, because for me, once I left Elmira, my parents basically went to Western Michigan or wherever we played every weekend. It's a big task, but they did it. A lot of parents did. But after that, when you go pro, there weren't streams, there weren't feeds. Like they couldn't watch me play hockey anymore. And now that you see junior teams are doing it, like the parents that the kids moved away from home, at least you can see the kid play at night, right?
We've got, every team has to do it.
You have to.
They have to go on, or there's a fine if you don't.
And can the parents watch it?
They can watch it anywhere.
Beautiful.
So grandmother lives in the Thunder Bay.
That's awesome.
They can watch it.
That means a lot to those kids that you're doing that, Clippy. And you know what? None of those little punks even realize how important you are.
Well,
they don't even realize until they're like old and in their shed and just talking about it.
I know. I'm just working now on putting a yearbook together. You remember getting your yearbook?
Of course. Yeah, I remember. and you do it all without technology, right? You got actual binders of shit.
I do have. I've done that since the early 90s.
Okay, and one other question while we're on you here, Clippy. You got a bit of a puck collection, eh?
1 or 2.
More than that?
I think there's 1,200 of them.
1,200 pucks.
Yes.
And are they what are you looking for? Well, how do you decide what makes the collection?
I started collecting them when I started with the Sugar Kings. So I've got one whole area, nothing but teams that we played against at some point. Now, a lot of those teams are tier 2 teams now. Then I had junior A pucks because I did some work with the Kitchener Rangers for a few years, and when Derek Roy was there, I traveled with them.
That was when I was around, right? That's when I'm playing, as he's playing for the Rangers and running amok with Kitchener. Well,
And then Daryl Sittler would collect them in NHL for me because I knew Daryl Sittler. I had him in the ball team in St. Jacobs.
1,200. So when I come to Elmira to give this $60 check, can I bring you a Cardiff Devils puck?
Yes.
Do you want one?
Oh, yes.
Do you want? Okay, I got a couple pucks. I could give you a couple.
Yeah, I've got WHA pucks.
What's that?
The old world.
Oh, the one before with the NHL there. It was the other NHL.
The old minor pro leagues from all over the States.
Really? I'm interested. I want to see this thing.
Yeah. And Howie Meeker bought me back one from the 72 series in Russia.
Really?
Yep. I'd have to find where the heck it is on the wall right now.
That sounds like you got quite a bit. What's that now, Hicksy?
This is a puck I'm going to send to Bob. This is
I know what that is.
Got a hold of this.
Yeah, my dog will do the same thing. Yeah.
I used to kick those around with the sticks in the wood hockey.
Oh man. Well, that's really impressive. I'll bring you a couple pucks when I come for the game. Okay.
Okay, I'll be there.
I'll add them to the collection. Okay. What else do I got here? Cam Stewart was one of the best Sugar Kings ever, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was the only player who was drafted to the NHL
Out of Elmira.
out of Elmira. He was playing for us.
Wow.
He got drafted to the NHL out of Elmira, because I sure wasn't on the radar when I was putting up 57 goals.
He played for us 1 year. The first year as a rookie, he got 85 points. And he was drafted by the London Knights. But he had already committed at that point to go to University of Michigan.
Right.
Next year, he had 139 points season.
139.
The Boston Bruins drafted him in round 5.
Oh, that's some impressive stuff. I remember my old man took me to a game at the Elmira Arena when I was just a young punk, like Colby's age now. And he was like, you need to come watch this guy play hockey. And I was like, okay. And I went and watched him play. And I was kind of too young to really get it. Like, not when Rob Collins and Brandon Dietrich are playing, but like, yeah, when people around town are talking about it, it's like, he was for real.
He was a big, solid boy. He played running back in football with St. Jerome's. And
Wow.
I can remember times when he would be carrying the puck up the ice as a player. And somebody would try to hammer him, and he'd just run him over like a bulldozer.
Yeah. No, I remember once he made the NHL, seeing him play, and he was like, he was energetic all over the place. And it
did lead to things. That's why he had to quit. He ended up with too many concussions.
Right. Playing on the edge a bit too much.
He always had to play the physical part, yet he had the
concussions weren't even that real back in the day, because people didn't really know what was going on, but I know they were happening. Because
probably the days when I played, you got off the ice and your head go dizzy, and because we didn't wear headgear or anything.
Yeah, you were no buckets, eh?
No, that wasn't part back then. So
what'd you play up to? Junior C?
Junior C. I got about 5-6 games in Hamilton. The Hamilton Red Wings.
I'm trying to figure out what type of player you were, Clippy, because
I
I always give player reviews. I've never seen you play.
There's no such draft thing at that time. It was pro sponsorship.
Trying to think what type of player you were, Clippy.
Well, Stratford was owned by Detroit and sponsored by them.
I'm thinking you're a smooth skating, up and down the wing, but just a teammate. You just do everything for everybody, but you're a little bit too nice out there. You didn't want to spear a guy. You weren't the Rob Collins that's going to spear a guy behind the play. You wanted everybody to compete and have fun. But you were one of the best teammates in the game. And I bet you were a passer because you were too unselfish to shoot. And that's what I think.
I could put it in the net. I played center. I had
smooth skater though, and a passer.
That's what saved me, because I wasn't big. So I could skate.
Yeah.
I had my line mate that played with me at the time ended up playing 14 years in the NHL.
Really?
Nick Libet with the Detroit Red Wings.
Cool. So that's what year is this you're playing with that guy?
What's that?
What year do you think that is you're playing with him?
Oh, probably 58, 59.
So that's back when it's only 6 teams in the NHL.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
A little tougher to make, maybe.
A year ago.
Okay. So, Hicksy, let's get into you now. We're diving deep now. Okay. So, how did you get into hockey and out in Timmins? We never did cover that, did we? You were talking about the Mahovliches, and then you moved to Kitchener. But what other sports do you cover? Because I know you weren't just Midwest Junior B hockey, because there wasn't enough to cover. What all have you covered in your writing career? And how did you get into writing?
That's a good question. I just got a job taking sports calls at the Record while I was studying broadcasting at Conestoga. And there would be some nights when people would call in with stories, and I was the only guy there. One was a big suspension that involved the Sugar Kings in Owen Sound, and this was like 80 something and 87. And then one weekend they didn't have anybody to cover the Braves hosting the championship for Junior B, Founders Cup at the Odd. And the
What's
Braves
the Braves?
were hosting
That's the lacrosse.
lacrosse, yeah. And they were playing against one of the teams in there was Mississauga, and it was John Tavares, the uncle of the Leaf guy, who was like considered maybe the greatest lacrosse player of all time. Anyway, nobody expected the Braves to win, and they won the damn thing. And so I did that story, and they liked the job I did, and I started doing more, and I sort of wrote for the newspaper while I was pursuing a career in broadcasting, which I turned into Junior B play-by-play in Cambridge. I started covering Junior B really when Marty Turco was Winter Hawks, 93, 94. And he was a hell of a goalie, let me tell you. He would acrobatic. He was something else. He would stand. I remember at the start of games, he would stand sideways, perpendicular to the goal line. But his puck play, man, he was on that puck. And at Galt, it's 185, so it's 15 feet shorter. So you could goaltender playing the puck was a big thing at old Galt Arena before they fixed it up. It was you think it's nice now. It was a dump when I was doing play-by-play there. It was a real dump. But as a kid, I mean, my dad used to take me on the ice at McIntyre Arena in Timmins when I was like 1 on a sled and out there. So hockey's in the family. It's just something we've always been a big part of. My uncle Greg was a scoring champ in the Quebec League in the 60s. He played Cleveland Pro. He was with Montreal's system.
Hockey's in the family, right? Like, because you sent me the thing for your poster there. Your brother has still a record in pro hockey.
He is the only player to ever score a shorthanded natural hat trick. 1, 2, 3, all shorthanded. It was with the Birmingham.
How many penalties?
Probably not that many. I don't know.
Was it 2 different penalties, 3 goals? It wasn't 3 goals and 1 penalty.
It was 3 different penalties.
3 different penalties.
Yeah, 3 different penalties. And he was coaching Birmingham in the Southern Pro League. They kind of got revived, and they took him because he won a scoring title in the East Coast League and was a name guy. And I took my boys down there to see some playoff games. And I asked him, so what are you going to do if one of your guys gets 2 shorties and is, he said, don't worry, that guy will never see the bench never see the ice after that.
There's no way anybody's getting 3 shorties natural anymore. I don't think. I'm surprised that ever happened.
He's a really great, talented player. He played Junior B for the Kitchener Ranger Bees. He would have played against Elmira. Then he played OHL for Peterborough with Mike Ricci and Ty Domi. And then he went to Kitzbühel, Austria, Brantford Smoke with Easter. I used to do play-by-play for the Brantford Smoke on TV with him and Easter.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's a small world when you get chatting around. So, gosh. Okay. I don't even know where to go with that. But other thing was he even played in the UK, because if folks don't know, most of the listeners of the Shed are in the UK. So he was playing for Ayr in Scotland.
Ayr Raiders of Scotland. And the check started bouncing, as I recall, and he ended up leaving there. And I think that's when he came back to Brantford. Played Houston in the IHL when the IHL was a thing.
That would have been interesting, having like the Brantford Smoke and the whatever other teams like that you could play actual pro hockey around here and get paid. That'd be pretty fun.
It was there were a lot of Junior B people like Greg White. Would come in from Cambridge. Terry McCutcheon, he still had the fire. But what was great about them was they had smoke gray uniforms at home, and they would come out onto the ice every time to deep purple smoke in the water. They had it down, and then they would switch to white home jerseys.
I think Easter brought that up in the Shed. I think you're bringing back memories of like episode 16, 15 maybe.
There was one game where Raw McLean was the referee, and Yeah, and they had me interview in between periods. I remember that.
Because he
I got
used
that
to he
somewhere.
used to ref or be a linesman, right? To keep up his qualifications so he could keep doing it, right?
Yeah, something like that. He did a lot of refereeing, and you know what? Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. But as I became a radio person, and I co-hosted this morning show and did the news. I met my wife in radio. She was a DJ. I started to pick up stuff. I learned a lot about writing from the guy who co-hosted the morning show with me. He was wild and off the wall and would set things up for the big punchline, and he was really good. And I began to just sort of bring some of that and let some personality come out in my writing. And
well, the more you did it, the better it was. By the end, like when we were in junior B, and you came up with articles that I couldn't believe what I was reading, right? Just like your play with words and how it all made sense, but it was about the hockey game. It was we loved it as players.
Oh, that's great to hear. I had a great time. And junior B was a loop. I spent 1 year. I saw 112 games. I think maybe that was the year Elmira
That's
won
aggressive.
It, first of all.
That's aggressive.
So,
How'd the wife think about that?
Let's see, 96. We were just married too.
Oh,
that's
dear.
Right. So
she knew what she was in for.
I remember we had our marriage before we got married. The year before, 95, 96, we had marriage classes with the priest, and they scheduled them. And I said, I can't make that. I got a junior B playoff series to call an Owen Sound out. Other than Owen Sound that night, I can't make it. So that was kind of I think that conditioned her pretty well to what was to come. But you know what? Just to get back to Elmira was different than any other place I'd been to. You would come in there and you'd just be floored by the decency of the people, the niceness of the people, everyone with the team. It was so great. But 2 years ago, I think I saw John and Marilyn Craig. It was Marilyn's birthday. They're having a cake at the arena at the Dan, and one of my kids was playing, and just to see them again, to see that everybody at the Maple Syrup Festival at their booth to buy a pickle on a stick. It's just a special place, and I've learned more about how to be a good person and competitive from the people around the Sugar Kings than anywhere else. And that goes right from Jeff Snyder and Kevin Block. I learned so much from Graham because he, when he lost Dan, it was a big thing. I mean, it was
Dan Snyder, folks. You said Graham, but yeah, Graham Snyder, Dan Snyder playing for the Atlanta Thrashers, right? Yeah. Okay.
Right. And there's a car crash and Danny Heatley's at the wheel and Dan passed away. And I was riding.
And then I played with Danny his brother, Mark Heatley, in Germany later, right?
Wow.
It's a small world.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the media descended upon Elmira. I mean, it was everybody for the funeral.
Well,
and I remember, yep.
I spent hours with the media because I was with the team and Dan Snyder was also an ex-student.
Yeah. And he was, I mean, I knew him from the OHL, all this, everybody knew Dan, right?
The only way I know him was Jeff Snyder was kind enough to invite me. So, as a young hockey player, it gives you confidence. It gives you a little spur in your step when a coach requests for you to come try out. He requested just myself and Dennis Weidman from the 83 age group to come try out as 13-year-old. I was 13 when I tried out for the Sugar Kings.
Wow.
And that's when Dan Snyder was on the ice and I skated with him. And that was my first time. And he was already, I think, in the OHL. And when you're a 13-year-old kid and you have to go out and do that shit and see these other guys from Elmira that are playing in the OHL, coming back to skate with the Sugar Kings. And it's like, geez, I could be like that guy someday.
Yeah. And Dan was a pure force of personality. I don't know how he made it as far as he did, because he didn't have any of the things you would think, but it was just pure personality, whether he was taking the tooth out and dropping it in your glass or doing the Harpo Marks, I hear, playing golf, streaking the golf course. But there's so many great stories Scott Sealing used to tell me about him. He's a good friend. But what I was talking about was the day of his funeral, and there was a huge press conference, and I asked Graham. I said, how do you go on with Danny Heatley? What do you say? How do you deal with this? And his response is something I'll always remember, something I keep in my mind. He said, I've already lost one son. I want to lose two. It was just so powerful, the forgiveness. And when I want to think, what's forgiveness? That's forgiveness. And then after that, to see Graham walking up the street with his wife hand in hand, and hundreds of hockey players behind him. It was just, when I relayed that, I still get choked up about it. When I relayed that story to my wife, that day, the image was just something.
Well, and I was at Western Michigan with all that going on, and obviously I'm seeing the media, and I'm seeing. I was very proud of Elmira.
Yeah. But it's more than Dan's story. It's I think of Larry Farr and his wife Dawn. I think of Jimmy McLeod, and he was a captain of industry, as I recall. He didn't need to be an equipment guy. He was that special.
And he was
Gary
the best
Schaefer.
equipment guy ever. He kept us kids in check. It was like, your shit needs to be here or it's not getting done. You need to be accountable to yourself, or else I'm not doing this for you. I'm only doing this for you if you put it here like this, and then I'll do it. And he was teaching us to be accountable as young men, right?
Yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, there's so many tough aspects of life that the people of Elmira handle with a smile and with calm and acceptance, and move on and continue competing, continue being nice, continue being the people they are. It just struck me as something very special I've never encountered anywhere else. And I say this as an outsider, and because whenever you go places, right away you get hit by, okay, what kind of place is this? But the more I went into Elmira, the more I kept looking for chinks in the armor, and I never found it, because people are genuine, and just a real pleasure to be around. And I spent so many games beside Bob and just chatting, and we just chat about stuff, and it was always a pleasure. Yeah, very special place. Very special.
Stop it! You're making me choked up.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
but I always say to everybody on here, is where you're from makes you who you are.
Yeah.
The road you travel makes you who you are, right?
That's right. Been through that.
Okay, so Hicksy, here's another question. Then you ready?
Yep,
how do you feel when you were a newspaper reporter, and obviously the game's changed in your world? Now you got punks like me that's never gone to school for media, never done anything. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to go to my shed and start crushing beers with my friends and call it a podcast. And like, what's it like, the industry that you've been in your whole life from like, you would have been watching a junior B game, and you would have had some kind of a deadline to write that article that night and get it sent in so it could be in the paper the next day.
Right. And I can just
take a picture right now and say, hey, talking to these two, sent.
Yeah. That's the constant in life. Things change, right? And it makes me feel really good, because one thing that's the most important, and I learned about this in radio and TV, is it's called one-to-one. It's being able to talk like you're talking to one person. You're not talking to a group. Hi, you don't say hi everybody, or at least you don't do it. So you're dispersing your thoughts over many. You really do a one-to-one, and that's what I think people have clued in on without having the formal training. Sometimes the formal training gets in the way, especially for writing. I had to unlearn what I thought sports writing was, and just let my
And
personality
be
come out.
yourself. Yeah.
Which is what you do, Wally. You're yourself. And that's
Yeah.
why it's a success. That's why I'm wearing this and I paid a ridiculous shipping price.
Well, thank you. Because realistically, like, it's the most fun I've ever had because it's the most myself I've ever been.
Well, you go back. You said earlier what I said to your mom.
Right.
Sky's the limit. Hey,
Sky's the limit.
did you not reach for that and get it now?
Well, that's the thing, right? I've never been so passionate about talking about, I've never been so passionate about anything, but doing this and being a, father and husband, but like doing this has changed me as a person. I'm more confident in myself.
Oh, you stepped out of Brett Walton and went somewhere different.
I'm who I always wanted to be. Like this,
Yeah.
These conversations, this is who I always wanted to be. But hockey players, when you're coming up, you're so worried about what the coach thinks, what the GM thinks, what this guy thinks, how you show up to the rink. Are you wearing the right clothes? Are you wearing the right shoes? Are they going to like you because of that? Are you going to like you because of this? And then like you're in the room and you're with the new team and you're like, can I behave like Wally? Or like the hardest parts I ever had was I could be myself when we're winning, but when we're losing, you can't act like Wally because you're a losing team. And that was where I had a very hard time for a few years, was when we were losing. And I'm like, I can't even act like myself at the rink. And it just changed my whole life. But this is fun. Sorry if I rambled there. I love this.
Yeah.
Hicksy just left us. Holy moly. Where'd he go?
I don't know. Maybe he had some appointment. I don't know.
Holy moly. Clippy. One-on-one time. Little one-on-one time till Hicksy finds his way back.
maybe he disconnected something.
Oh, he'll be back. Hey, this is like when you bike by Cedar Waxwing, right?
Yeah.
One-on-one time. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Where's your stuff? So, oh, he's back. Holy moly. You know what's funny is when I rate the notes out, even if I don't follow them, it's what we talk about. These are the notes I have written down at the end. $20 every 2 weeks still, question mark. Free McDonald's after every player of the game, question mark. And then I have where are players from now, question mark. Oh gosh. So how do the Sugar Kings recruit players, Clippy? How do they find guys nowadays? Because I was always curious, especially now growing up in Kincardine, or my kid is, and wherever he ends up going with hockey, like how do they do recruiting for the Sugar Kings?
Well, what we have going now is probably a little different. We have our GM does a lot of scouting. He does it for the Oshawa Generals, is Kevin Block.
Oh, is that right?
And then we have about 6 other of them in different areas. There's one in North Bay, one up in the Owen Sound area. There's in various spots, and they're involved in minor sports at that level.
And you have your little hubs of where, you're seeing players.
We now have every spring, we have a spring camp, and these various scouts put together the names that they would like to see invited to this spring camp. And it's May 6th and 7th this year.
Okay. May 6th and 7th, folks. You want to be a Sugar King? That's where you got to go. And if you want to support kids that can't afford equipment, you got to go buy tickets at aleshockeytales.com, right? And buy tickets to help support Friends of Hockey. So then when I go out to center ice,
you have something to give.
And I'm proud of how much money we've raised for these kids that want to play hockey, right? Because when I see the kids on my team smiling and playing hockey, like to think a kid's not getting able to do that because they don't have the equipment. And all you got to do, folks, is buy a few tickets, right? Hicksy, you look like you're on the throne now. You taking a shit? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted. We can't hear anything you're saying. Stop it. Ask to unmute. You're muted still. Nobody can hear you. Are you taking a shit?
Maybe he can't hear you.
No, he's not here. Well, he is a mess right now. Old Hicksy. Jeepers. So, Clippy, What else do we got then? Because Hicksy's a mess right now. What do you got? What are you doing these days? Are we about done here? What do you got for me?
I haven't got a whole lot. I keep track of records and stuff for the team. I keep those up to date.
So I still got one, right?
Yeah, and I have up at the rink in the archives, there are 64 binders going back to 71. Everything you could possibly think of. And in the last 10 years, we put an alumni wall up. And
An
pictures
alumni wall. You know what? I just got a picture
down
sent. I got a picture sent from my nephews that they wanted a picture with me, and there's a picture of me up in the Elmira Arena. So thank you.
Well, there's a picture of you in Western Michigan, and I forget where else, but there's about 150 of them down near the dressing room.
Oh, down by the dressing room. I was, yeah.
And there's some upstairs in the one showcase.
Well, it means a lot, right? For a player, like after all the shit you go through. Hicks, you done your shit yet? Can we hear you yet?
I think so.
Holy moly, man. You're a mess.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're not on the throne anymore. Is that a quick shit or what?
So try these again.
It's all good. But yeah, no, like it means a lot, Clippy, when that picture's up in the Elmira Arena, like my nephews go to take a picture with me, and pretty neat when you're an old fart, you know?
Yeah, we've got this your sister's kids.
Yeah, Cash and
They were at
Ty were there.
They were there a game or two ago with mom and dad.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
They played between periods.
Ty was out playing. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That
What a great way to bring communities together. And like, I don't know, with all the crap that's gone on lately, when you get to the Kincardine Arena and these teams are in playoffs and they're big games, like the arena's almost full, and it's bringing communities together. It's people coming together, and it's what hockey does, right?
Yeah, it always does. It's once a king, always a king.
Yeah.
It's a family thing.
Well, and that's what it is. It was a family thing. I went as a kid, like whenever grade 6, right? Like I'm just going with my buddies, and my parents are doing whatever, whether they're there or not. Like it was bringing the Elmira community together is what the Sugar Kings did. And it you know what brings it even more together is winning.
Yeah, well, it doesn't hurt.
you get put out first round. Nobody really gives a shit because those arenas weren't packed until the finals, right?
Well, each round it just grew.
It just grows, right?
Yep. It grows. Yep.
So should we give this check out in the first round or the second round?
Well, I would love to hope we can go to the finals of the Cherry Cup.
Right. Well, the raffle's good. Raffle's only got 16 days left, folks. So you better get your tickets.
Yeah.
You know?
So we've got, let's see, 7, 8, 9 games left.
And really still in the regular season, eh? You guys are going for the marathon, eh?
Well, we only play 48 games. But the problem that we ran into, we didn't play the whole month of January. And we didn't start until the 1st of October.
Right.
Because of the pandemic.
It's been a fun time.
It blew everything out of the water. So,
but you know what? People have been adapting and making things work. And it's like Hicksy said about folks from Elmira, right? Like whatever's thrown at you, you just figure it out and carry on, right?
Roll with punch and go with it, Yeah.
And
we still have the kids up to eat now. We are allowed to do that. After the game, you went up to like you said, it was the Blue Line Club, but the Elmira Arena now, they have that community center out off the lobby. That's where they go.
No, it's great that the whole thing's still happening. And I have to thank a lot of my hockey career to Elmira, but also watching the Sugar Kings win those Sutherland Cups changes my career because I see what it takes to win, right? I think there's a lot of hockey players out there that think they know what it takes to win, but they don't actually know.
And I think the other thing that kids coming in, like yourself, coming in the first year out of playing minor midget or something, they always have the feeling that you could walk in to play junior B hockey and just walk in and continue to do the same thing you did playing Bantam.
Right.
They have to learn. They have to learn what's the next step to get me up to that point.
And you got to get used to where you're at and adapt, and then figure out how to
get up to the next level.
Be good at what you're doing. Yeah. I
think the parents have a hard time with that too.
Well, because their kid's always been the best their whole career, right? And then they get to junior B and you're playing with a 19-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah. He hasn't learned what it takes to do it.
And you got to learn how to do it all, right?
Yeah.
And then there's roles too, right? You got to figure out what your role is. One of my favorite stories is a Jeff Brick story. Yeah, Jeff Brick. He was coaching New Hamburg. He used to coach with Snides, right?
Yeah.
Jeff Brick was the Cambridge coach when I was in the league, and he was always a Brent Walton supporter. I remember when they would shadow me because when a team shadows you, that's a pretty big compliment. So thanks, Jeff. It drove me nuts that game, but it feels great now. So thanks.
He was coaching New Hamburg, and young Corey Green, another former Cambridge coach, was coming up, and he was a fourth liner, and he was coming in over the blue line, and he dangled two guys, ran in, scored top shelf, got back to the bench, and Jeff Brick looked at him, his eyes bulged out, and he said, "You sit down the rest of the game." And he kind of looked at Jeff and said, "What?" He says, "When I ask for dump-ins, I want fucking dump-ins." Got it?
Yeah. And every team has the same thing. You have the scorers, and Wally's team that played, you had your guys that could do the offensive start, but you also had those other guys that could do the other part of the game.
Well, and I personally think hockey taught me everything I know about the real world now, because I go to Elmira. The first year, I am a third line winger. No power play time, no penalty kill, just try to fit in, try to get used to it. The second year, I'm good at it. I'm better. The third year, I was dominant, but like each year is a different vibe. You're a different person in the room. You're not the rookie. You're the second year guy, or then you're the vet. You're the guy, and they're looking at you to teach them the way. And it's the same in once you get to pro, there's the rookies, there's the guys that have been around, there's the guys with kids, and you have to figure out who you are in the team dynamic, and you have to perform that responsibility for your team to be successful. And it's the same shit in the real world.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Right. And you have to learn how to be part of a team, and you have to know who you are in the organization and do that.
Well, you play with a sports team, you learn your role, and you also learn to work with people, because there's no way that one person makes a hockey club, the 20 do. That's life.
And there's a lot of different personalities on every different team, and you have to work together to figure the shit out. And
when you get out into the real world, away from sports, in an office, you got 20 people in that office. They ain't all going to be the same good guy that you think they're.
And they haven't all played sports. They haven't all played hockey.
Well, they have different personalities, and some of them can be real dorks.
And they came from different backgrounds. There's a lot of different people in the world, and we're all different.
Yeah. And you have to learn to work in that system.
And then some of them are goalies.
Oh, no shit.
We had my idea with the goaltenders. In fact, is I would never play goal. I'm thinking, who the hell's going to stand in there and let some other dork throw a puck at your head at 100 miles an hour?
It makes no sense. But the thing is
stupid.
If you look back on my previous episodes, I've almost had on almost every goalie I've played with, because I always found the goalie's the most important player on a team.
Oh yeah.
And like, I always had a shine to him. I always wanted to make sure they felt good. I always wanted to make sure they were ready. They were happy. And I always had great relationships with my goalies because I knew that was the most important thing in our team winning.
Your team builds from the net out.
That's it. It's like being a coach. It's like, if you want to be a good coach, then you better have a good save percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the successes we're having this year. We have a team, both of our goaltenders have under a 2-goal game average.
No scholarship opportunities.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just curious, because if you're telling me that's the case, Rob Collins is coaching a good D zone for sure. He's coaching a good system, and
Yep.
the boys are buying in, because you don't have that good of a goals against if he's not doing that. But I don't understand, because a kid that's playing junior B or tier 2 junior A, they're shooting the puck at the same speed.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if those kids aren't letting in goals, why the flip aren't they getting scholarships?
You see very little of them anymore.
Well, you know why though? Part of it's because Americans are way better at hockey than they used to be.
There's a lot of change in the American system, and a lot has changed in the NCAA about the use of scholarships. A lot of schools don't give scholarships as such. They do financial aid.
But that's only the smart schools, I thought.
Yeah. And they do that with mom and dad, depending what mom and dad, even Rochester RIT
Right.
doesn't offer for.
No, that's just certain schools. So that was the same when I went there. Cornell was like that, but you go to Western Michigan, they could pay the ride. But Cornell's not allowed. Princeton's not allowed. It's what mommy and daddy make. And like, that's the way it's been. But it's just disheartening to me when I hear that there aren't scholarships coming out of that league, because I'm from this area.
Yeah.
I want my son to play in this area and get a scholarship to the NCAA. That's what I want. I don't want him having to move to BC to get a scholarship.
No.
I think that's bullshit. He can be a good player here and make the jump, I thought.
Yeah. But your recruiters for the NCAA now think there's only certain places where there are good enough players to play. They like the provincial.
Well, so speaking of small worlds, I moved to Kincardine and Ethan Skinner was trying to get a scholarship. This was way back 5-6 years ago, right? We go out for breakfast. We have a chit chat. I get to know him. I find out what type of person I'm dealing with, what we're doing, and make sure I can vouch for the guy. The guy is a fantastic person. He is heart and soul. He is a captain of your team. If I had a team in the UK, I'd be taking him any day. I just know him as a person. He's a fantastic person. So then I call Western Michigan, cold call, and I haven't talked to them since I left because it was tough leaving there. But anyways, I call them. There's new coaches. It's all different. And I'm like, I'm trying to help this kid out. What do I got to do? And they said, he's got to leave Elmira.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
We have the same thing. We have 2 or 3 now playing the BCHL because they were told. And one of them is Robbie Waters'
from
son.
Elmira.
Robbie Waters' son
is out in BC to play hockey to try to get a scholarship because you can't in Elmira.
Nanaimo. And I'm sorry, but going back to Collins and Dietrich's days, our junior B league is as good as anything else out there.
Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like,
I know. Like, we got 2 or 3 kids on our team now, and I've got several coaches in the NCAA that I talk to all the time. Still do.
Yeah.
By email now. But I keep telling them, get your ass up here. I mean,
there's players. And that's the thing, is it takes a couple NCAA teams to come up and watch a game and go like, shit, they can play.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they find a couple players out of there. They go to the NCAA and do well. And then all of a sudden you're back in business.
I know.
Shed's making this happen. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're getting scholarships out of that league again. I don't care what I got to do.
We got a couple scores. We got a kid that plays for us now. He's played minor hockey with the Waterloo Wolves. Murray kid out of North Waterloo here, St. Clements. He's got 26 goals already this year in his first year at Junior B.
And he's not getting anything. No sniffs, nothing.
Yeah, well, he can whistle a puck, I'll tell you.
And that's what I don't understand about the goaltenders making all the saves. Goalies can either stop the puck or they can't.
Yeah.
And Junior B players or tier 2 and BCHL, wherever the hell you want to call it, USHL, kids can shoot at the same speed.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a different shot in Junior B than tier 2, Junior A. So I don't get why those kids aren't getting scholarships.
Well, that's it. You know, we've got about 3 kids. There's Uric, LeBlanc. I wouldn't stand in front of their shots because they can whistle them and they can catch corners. They're not just drilling it. They're aiming it.
Yeah. Got to do that sometimes.
25. We got 3 or 4 kids with over 20 goals already this year.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody come close to my record yet, though, Clippy?
I think probably the last one would be Andrew Smith at 44.
When was that?
He played for the Sutherland Cup team in 2014, I think.
Okay. That's good. I don't want that was a big day in my life.
Yes, it was.
It was. I still have the puck. I'm not sending you that one. No, I remember being stuck at 56 forever when I tied it. And it was the last. So then I went about 3 games without a goal and I needed one more to pass it. And it came down to the last game of the season. And I got one more to get 57 and actually pass him. So that was cool.
Oh, yeah.
Terry Holscher. That was a battle that year.
Yeah.
You got to have goals though, right?
Oh, yes. Yep.
And he was what I was striving for. So thanks, buddy.
It's always that way.
It is. You got to have something to shoot for, right? And it's like
right.
Brandon Dietrich and Rob Collins watching their careers, and it's like, this is what I can do, right?
Yeah. Wow. The sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit.
Yep.
You're right. And this has been another episode of Zero Ales and Hockey Tales because I got to go back to the real world.
Yes.